is a storyboard. Now comes the part of inking your storyboard, the main lines. So if you remember, we have created a new layer on top of the main locked one, like this. You reduce the opacity to some 19 or 15%. So you can see these look like dull pencil lines. Traditionally what happens is the storyboard is done in pencils. The storyboard is also later redrawn in pencils. Then comes a proper ink and pen procedure where it is finalized in black lines. Since we are doing this digitally, this is the way we do it. You can either go back to your panels layer, bring that layer on top of the storyboard layer, unlock it, and then you start making the lines final. You can zoom in and zoom out as much as you want, because as for detailed strokes as well as some kind of minute details on particular skin textures, you will need to zoom in and draw. So for example, this is a thumb of a zombie who's been buried in the mud for long. So you need to show some rugged lines, you need to show some rotten flesh, some bone, something torn away from the skin. I love drawing 4 fingers on the hands of my comics. I don't draw 5-fingered hands because I think that's a creative liberty. Add as many little strokes possible because you're showing something which is coming out of mud. It's going to be dirty, it's going to be rotten. Add some nice heavy black strokes, kind of gives a whole shadow feeling to it, something dark. Zoom into this again because it's a hand which is closer to the viewer, so naturally there's going to be a lot more detail in it, some more torn rotten flesh. So you see what's happening here is your storyboard is actually taking shape. I would take some more liberty to show some hands missing fingers as well, because again these have come out of the mud where they've been buried for long. You don't know what shapes and sizes they might be in. You show these rough, quick strokes which show motion. See this? These are the kind of strokes that actually show that there's some motion going on. And in the background, these are your main hands. To show multiple hands in the background, what you can do is show smaller, fully black hands. They look like silhouettes from here. You just go to show that there's actually a crowd of hands which is behind the main hands. A simple example is when you're looking at trees in a forest or something. You will notice the color on the first few columns and rows of trees. Everything behind it becomes a bunch of silhouettes. It's kind of the same thing you follow. The second panel is the reaction shot. What Wacom tablets allow you to do is select your nib size when you are drawing with the pen. So for close-ups you would need a thicker stroke. For zoom shots you need a thinner stroke. So since this is a close-up of Angry Maushi, we'll just increase the nib size. This is your inked second panel as compared to the storyboard. This is what was approved. This is what is now inked. Third one is her facing off. She's ready with her punches, so let's show her with her clenched fist. Here is where you'll have to show a little detail on the zombie army. We have not shown them with their faces, but here, since it's a frontal for them and a back shot for Angry Maushi, we'll be showing some faces. So go crazy with it. I'll show show them in some torn clothing because again they're zombies. They will not have their best clothes on. The fun thing about drawing zombies is you can actually do anything. So here I'm showing this guy with a jaw hanging loose. And once you have some main zombies done here, it's a tip to remember in any of these crowd shots you're doing. If the action is happening right in front, you can draw the first few, and the back can be silhouettes if you don't have the need for detailing the back details. So let's draw the first few zombies here. That's the thing with even the main character of a comic. If you're talking about Angry Maushi or if you're talking about Shikari Shambhu, they all have to have a consistent look all throughout your all the panels across all the comics you've done. So you have to remember a particular set of features. You have to remember which stroke ends where. So that consistency also has to be there. So you see, we have the first three panels inked and ready. The first one is the hands, second is Maushi, third is her in front of the approaching army of zombies. And the last panel here is an action shot. This is where you need a little bit of understanding of the way the human body would move. So I want to show her. I'm going to just lock the main art layer again so that all my scribbling doesn't affect it. I'm going to go back on the storyboard layer. This is the storyboard layer. I want to show her holding a zombie in one hand. Let me select a red ink for this. She's holding this zombie in her right hand. So she's actually tilting over a bit. This is her head. This is her spinal cord. This is a hip. So this is her other arm with which she's punching a different zombie. So you have to make sure you know where the spinal cord is, you know where the hip is, you know where the head is. So this is an obvious tilt. Her other shoulder would be like this. She would be holding the other zombie here. Keeping that in mind, we have to ink the pose accordingly. I'm just going to follow the spinal cord pose, the stroke. I'll go back to black. I love drawing angry faces. I'm still following the pose, so her hip is going to be here, which means, and she's a rotund lady, which means this is somewhat the way she'll be standing and holding one guy and punching the other. Here is where the other hand would be. Remember, she is actually strangling a zombie here. So we can show the zombie. This is where I was saying it's going to overlap the lines. So we'll delete her head strokes. We'll continue the zombie lines here. Always make sure you finish the stroke. For example, this is an unfinished one. Finish the stroke so that when you're coloring, it doesn't have you don't have to rework on the strokes and go back and fill it up that time. The zombie here is getting punched, so we can show his eye coming out of his socket. Since this guy is in a close-up, we'll go with a thicker nib. We'll show some silhouettes at the back because we know there are other zombies around, so you don't need to go into too much detail when you're this is how your page will look once inked. You have the first panel, second, third, and the fourth. Now now that you know what the page is going to look like and okay, you know the action for real, there are two things remaining. One is the colors, of course, and one is the lettering. It's up to you. If you can letter it before the colors, it saves time later, because after coloring you need to go back, erase the colors, erase the lines, shuffle up the elements a bit if you feel that the dialog bubbles are eating up into the artwork. Or you can just letter it in the ink stage itself, so that if you feel that you need to reshuffle things, you can do it right here.